talking, I have to do the check to see where we're actually live, because it's been real different. And so let's see, we are starting on LinkedIn, I guess. It says that they're waiting for the host to start, and last I checked, that was me, and I hit the button, and so there's that. Well, someone let me know if you can see us on LinkedIn. That'd be great. And then let's see, Instagram is still acting squirrely, so I'm not even going to stress that one. And let's check Facebook. All right, so the good news is we are on Facebook, and I just need to make it to where everybody can see it so it's not private forever. Okay, so we're live at least in a couple of places. And and as always, you can catch the replays on YouTube, and we will also be sharing some clips of these conversations over time, over the next few weeks. So like I said, hopefully LinkedIn catches up sooner than later. But either way, I'm excited to talk to my dear business friend, Julia. And of course, my name is Tanisha Stallnaker with SVS. I don't go into a whole lot of intros about myself, because I figured by this point, week after week, we kind of know how this is flowing. But just in a real short way, I work with systems. I have an agency. We do tech and systems, and they're all amazing. Team's amazing. The service is amazing. Company's amazing. Everything's amazing. So disclaimers, as always. Today's disclaimer, I think I've given it every week, but today it actually is a real thing. The dog. He is right here next to me. He may snore profusely during this call. We're going to ignore it and act like we don't hear it at all. He may jump up and attack his own shadow. Anything's possible. He might be on camera at some point. So if you see a tail or head, I'm fine. Everything's fine. But I have to give the disclaimer, because one of the reasons I like the fact that this is like unplugged, it's not scripted, it's unrehearsed. Life is still going to life somewhere potentially in the next 30 minutes. But either way, we're going to roll with it. And in that, I'm excited. Julia Lumpkin is the CEO of Magnify Consulting. And we have known each other now, is it 2 years?
I feel like it's 2.5-ish. Yeah.
We went from client to then now business partners. Julia's company is amazing and handles 98% of any copywriting that we need for any of our website work. And they do an amazing job, as well as any email copy that our clients may need, because we don't write. And so over that time, we've become really cool and close, and we check in with each other on this wild, wild west ride of entrepreneurship. And so I was super excited to invite and have her accept the invitation to have this conversation, and very intrigued by her topic of time management for busy entrepreneurs. So Julia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me. So yeah, we've known each other because I think we started our business around the same time and probably met a year after that. So it's probably going on in close to 3 years or ish. But yeah, so I am the owner of Magnify Consulting. We are a digital marketing agency focused on helping minority and time back from marketing. And we do that in several different ways. So we can offer done for you services in SEO, email marketing, website updates or website creations, and even copywriting. But we also offer a lot of education. So I do workshops, whether we host them or I go to organizations and provide workshops on marketing strategy, SEO, all of those hot topics that many entrepreneurs or people that are decision makers in small companies need a little bit more clarity on to make the best decisions. So, with that, as an entrepreneur, I felt like this was a great topic for this year because Tanisha and I often, like she said, check in with each other. And a big part of being a business agency owner is managing your time. We were even having a candid conversation right before the call started about the things that we're doing this year and having to adjust our schedule to make up for that. So I'm excited to explore that topic and yeah, give you my honest insights of what has worked and what hasn't worked for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. So, all right, so we're going to get into it. But I guess one of my first questions is, if you look at when you first started your business to now, would you say that you've gotten better at time management? It's about the same or it's worse?
Ooh, that is an excellent question. I've definitely gotten better. There are more things on my plate. I feel like as I've learned more about what it takes to be a successful business owner, that there may be more things like business development and finding the right tools and HR and different things like that. But I will definitely say I've gotten better, and I'll say that because my previous experience before owning my own business, I worked for a Fortune 500 for several years. So being part of a big corporation, and then I worked for a startup. And that experience was I was working 24/7, Monday through Sunday, sleeping. I literally considered my home and my bed the place just where I took a quick nap. But I would be up early for several reasons and working late. And so what's funny is when I started my own business, I thought, oh, I'm going to set my own hours, right? I'm not going to work these crazy, crazy hours. But I carried a lot of that 24-hour hustle into my business. So I was still waking up and starting like in the dark wee hours at like 6 a.m. and then working until the light literally went out. And so the first year of my business, I was just as tired. I was passionately tired, but there was no time management. I was working every day. And so I had to learn the hard way. How I can literally just run myself into the ground.
Mhm.
And so probably about a year ago, I started doing it. It started as simple as just block lunch, just literally block 12 to 1 lunch because I wasn't blocking any time for lunch. And then it moved into okay, block time. You know that if you have back to back meetings, you need to have 2 to 4 hours where you're working on the assignments from those meetings or those deliverables. So it was started off by like blocking project work time is what I called it. And then I started adding things like, oh, I need time for business development. I need networking time. And so to circle back to your question, yes, I would say now I have a better sense of time management. But when I started, because there's no rules, and so there's no one holding you accountable to working a 9 to 5. And like I said, I had what I considered unhealthy habits of how much time I needed to be working to be successful.
Well, if I'm being honest, I hope I'm better. And the reason I pause is if I look at just business,
Mm,
yes, I'm better. Now, I will never lie to the world and say I was up at 5 or 6 o'clock for my business. That was not happening. So I never did that part. But there definitely were lots of nights and weekends where while my husband and I were watching TV, I was also sitting with the computer in my lap. And to me, it was like, well, this is still quality time because we're like next to each other. And this is great. So I could, you know, pay attention to my family. And I put that in quotes, pay attention to my family. And we can watch a movie and I can work and I can answer client things and clients can text me. And it's okay. It's perfectly fine. 10 o'clock at night, you text me, I'm up. So why not answer it? You know, all of the things that, you know, we tell our clients never to do. I did all of that. Um, and so I didn't block out time to eat. I didn't block out time to do much of anything outside of work. And so it's not that way now. But at the same time, what has taken place of certain things is like now I homeschool. And I didn't do that. I wasn't doing it at the beginning of the business. That she was still going to public school, so it was just me home during the day. She's now into competitive swimming, which also wasn't as big of a passion when I first started the business. So 6 days out of the week, someone is at a pool, you know, and managing that schedule. And then I work with different organizations as a consultant, and I'm doing some more one to one things. And I didn't have a plan to have an agency. So when I started the business, it was just me managing my time and my work. And now there's a whole group of humans that I have to factor in as well, clients and team members. And I also just accepted a position as a program facilitator for another program, which takes 2 days out of my week because clearly I didn't have enough things to do. So that's why I say I'm better ish, but I have managed to find a way to try to pack in like 60 hours of work in 25 hours. And sometimes,
Yeah,
a lot of times it
now
does.
that you mention it, I'm like, actually, this month wasn't that I was all over the place because I too took on a role as a program facilitator, which I've done it like 3 times before, and I did have like a Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday schedule. So now I'm doing one that's more flexible, but they have more one-on-ones with me. So I have like 3 calls today where I'm reviewing their proposals. So that means I have to plan one for the meetings, but also to prep.
Yeah.
So I was telling Tanisha before the call, before the live started, I was like, I realized that's a whole nother project that I didn't think of. Like, this is a project, me being a program facilitator with hours and
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I get asked a lot, like my friends joke, they're like, just listening to your daily schedule is exhausting.
Mm.
And sometimes, yes, it is. But I guess the one thing that I've gotten much better about, and I'm going to put it under like the time management category, is I've gotten really good at saying, again, it's going to sound redundant given everything that I just said that I do, but I am very good at saying no when I need to. Meaning, I might not provide the support or might not avoid taking the project on. But if I have a day where I'm not going to be worth anything because I'm just exhausted, then I'll cancel my meetings or I won't take her to practice. I'll switch out with my husband or I won't do the extra things because what I failed to mention is I'm on 2 swim team boards and all of that. So I'm very good at the days where it's like, hey, can you take care of this today? No, mm-mm, not at all. I couldn't even think about it. Like, can't spell it, can't do anything with it today. But so to me, the balance of time management and kind of preventing the burnout side of it is recognizing when I need to hit like pause and say, I can take care of it, but it's not happening today.
Mhm.
And delegating and all of those things. So I've gotten better about getting some support when I need to so that I can fit 75 hours worth of stuff into a 3.5 day week. Because to me, yes, those days are hectic and busier, but I also have built in my time off. So I still have
Mhm.
days that I'm off and I've learned to enjoy those. Like when I'm off,
Mhm.
and my husband's like, are you going to move today? Nope, not at all. Like there's nothing happening. It's me, minor, and this remote. No one should need me. So to me, as long as I have those days baked in, you know, I don't really stress the whole am I doing time management correctly topic.
Mm.
But that's me rambling. So tools. What tools are you using to help with time?
Yeah. Oh, I actually wanted to piggyback off of what you said, and then I do have a tool that actually I feel like has been a game changer for me. I think I just start practicing and feeling confident in saying no this week, and I know I have because I wrote down that I said no 3 times. But I got to a point. I'm such a people pleaser in every way, whether it's clients and friends or anybody that's asking time of me, and really getting to a point where I reach my capacity, hit a wall, literally physically. I was in the ER last year, late last year. And then this year, I had a migraine that like, took me out, and I knew it was from exhaustion and me just doing too much. So my body at this point is physically saying, "You ain't got it, girl." So I don't know. You have nothing to give. So, learning some lessons the hard way, but, like Tanisha said, learning how to say no when, um, now the way I think about things whenever I'm given the opportunity to make a decision is this going, is it actually time sensitive? And, I'm going to be honest, a lot of the work that we do in marketing and tech and operations, yes, we want to get it done as soon as possible, but nothing is going to break if it doesn't happen today. And so, allowing myself and just being honest, yeah, I can just building in, I'll get that to you in 2 days. Even if I can get it today, just saying, giving myself because you know what always happens? Stuff actually comes up. And I don't have to feel pressured or apologize for not getting it, the day of. So I give myself a realistic time. So now I'll hear myself, because the people pleaser in me is like, I want to get this to you right after the meeting. So I'll hear myself start to open my mouth and I go, wait, let me look at my calendar and give you an accurate time. I'll have that to you by Friday. And that way everybody is happy. So I've been learning to pause before that version of me sets herself up for failure.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, I've been definitely saying no, or giving, and maybe not necessarily the word no, but like giving the parameters of my availability. So, I've had a partner that asked me, hey, we need to schedule a 30-minute call on this day. I go, great, this is when I'm available. They scheduled an hour call. I emailed them back and said, as a reminder, I said, this is when I'm available for the 30-minute call. The
Yeah.
call started at 30 minutes. I said, I have to go, as a reminder. So that's a lot for me, because I would have like tried to move the next thing. The meeting's running over, but I'm learning that if I don't set my boundaries, like, people won't know to honor them.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of big for me, because I was like, oh, okay. People will literally just run over you if you don't set boundaries. So
Oh, yeah.
that's my version of saying no, is like, these are my parameters. And if you can work within these parameters, or we have to pass.
Yeah, I agree. And
Um,
it's funny, to your point about things being time sensitive. Someone told me years ago when I first started in business, and I remember at the time I was so offended, not personally offended, but like offended on behalf of my clients, I don't know that I could say I'm a people pleaser, because I don't think that'd be accurate, but I am like a problem solver. And so I tend to focus more on that. And in the sense of it, then it tends to help people. And so that's great. But I don't have any real hard time telling somebody no if that's how I really feel about it. But somebody made a comment. She was like, there are no emergencies in online business. And she was like, we are not saving lives. Now, my brain was like, well, I mean, maybe not, but like, what if we don't get this done and then the client goes and then I can't do payroll, and that was the last payment they needed to eat their last meal. I mean, I was going real deep with that comment. But over time, it's true that, it's important. There are plenty of things
yeah.
important, but there are very few things that if we tell the person it's going to take 2 days versus us dropping everything and doing it right now, there are very few things that are going to derail their entire business. Because if it was that bad, there was probably going to be something else that derailed it outside of us not having something to them, an email or a document done in 2 days, But I have to remind myself regularly, like that whole, there are no emergencies in online business, you know? And the other saying that I'd known and heard for years that I do have to, I'm very proud of myself. As blunt as I am, I have not yet actually said this to a client. No, I had to think
You
about
think about it.
Right, just in case, because I've said a lot of things. But it was like a phrase that one of my friends used to always say, and she was like, your lack of planning does not constitute my emergency.
Yes.
And it's true in business, it's true in life, it's true in most aspects, that many times things that become urgent is because something wasn't planned properly to begin with. And while that's unfortunate, while it's happened to all of us, you not planning properly does not mean that it's something that I have to now drop everything. And I have to remind my team of that as well, because most of them are actually very good about time management and blocking time to focus on different client projects. And then we'll get that client that waited till the day before they wanted to decide on a launch to now expect new landing pages and all these things the day of, and then me having to go in and no, I don't say the phrase directly, but I have paraphrased it to where it comes out a little softer, but still gets the message across of, it's unfortunate that we're just now hearing about this. We are going to need you to shift your date because it's not realistic for us. Even if we charge the person and all of that and they were willing to pay for it, it's not even always about the money. It's a fact of,
Well, literally,
is
There's
good.
only so much time.
Yep.
So I was listening to a podcast the other day, and she was just saying, like, people, um, there's infinite amount of money you can make, even though it feels like there might be limits, but there is a finite amount of time that we
Exactly.
have on a
Yep.
daily basis. And so when you shift your perspective of, oh, I could charge this much to get this done, but really you only have so much time. So it doesn't matter
Yep.
how astronomical the price is. If you only have this much time, I can't realistically get this done. Or you probably don't want me to rush to get this done because I'm going to make mistakes,
Yep.
right? So it's better to all of us agree to move this out. It doesn't matter how much money, we only have so much time.
Agreed. I've
Mhm.
tried my best to make the day 72 hours long, and it's never worked. So I'm just gonna have to work with the 24 hours that we have.
Yep.
Um,
So I'll tell you my tool that I use to help
all
with
right.
those 24
What are we
hours.
using?
So I'm very much calendar oriented. So I've always, without any tools, I was already like my G Google Calendar, would be sectioned off. So like I said, as my journey evolved to actually managing my time, it started with me physically putting blocks on my time for lunch, and physically putting time for business development or project management. But the thing with that is, if it's actually blocking your time, but then you need to take a meeting, you have to move it and maneuver things around. So, one of someone that I was working with on a project, we were both independent contractors on a project. She told me about this app called Reclaim that links in with your, I think, Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar. And what I love about it is it also, disclaimer, I live in New York City, in Harlem, so every now and then there's gonna be sirens, dogs
Mhm.
barking, just the city life. Always happens. It's quiet, and then I'm on a call and the sirens
Not a problem.
are coming. But, what I like about Reclaim is that, and they use this terminology, it defends your calendar for you in a very smart and intuitive way. So,
Because I
what
downloaded
I can wait now, I'm gonna I have a referral link.
it.
So I'll put that in the, I guess, private chat, and maybe you can share.
Mhm.
Um, but basically, yeah, it defends your calendar in a very smart way. So essentially, the way I use it is I put in habits that I want to do weekly or monthly. So, for example, my habits for me are lunch, which happens Monday through Friday, business development, which I want to do at least 2 times a week for an hour, and then project management, which I want to do for 2 hours at least 3 times a week. And so, what it does is for each habit that you define, you say how defensive you want their system to be. So, for example, let's say lunch. I can say, I'd like to have lunch between the hours of 11 to 1 for at least 45 minutes, but maybe up to an hour and 15 minutes. And it goes, great. Okay, so we set that. You want it between 11 to 1. That's your ideal time. Then it asks you, how defensive do you want it to be? Most defensive would mean it's going to block your calendar. And so when I say block, no one, if you were trying to schedule like a Calendly with me, you won't see that I'm unavailable. So if it's most defensive, it's going to block me as busy from 11 to 1. But
Mhm.
I can say, be a little less defensive. Just make sure you find 45 minutes. So what it does is it moves around on my Google Calendar. So as meetings get scheduled, let's say someone schedules with me from 11 to 11:30, it goes, oops, we can't schedule lunch there. So it moves down to 12. But it gets to the point where if it has nowhere to move, then it shows up as busy. And I love it because I don't have to figure out and move things around. I know that my lunch is I literally look at my schedule. It's like, okay, like today, oh, I guess I'm taking lunch at 12:45 because that's what it moved to.
Mhm.
And then same thing, I can do something monthly. So like maybe monthly, I'm reconciling my books, and I need to do that once a month. And I can say at the end of the month. So it'll find time on that last day of the month. So I don't have to think about when the last day is. It'll find that time. And I started using it about a year ago, and I've been so productive because when I first started using it, I would sometimes still schedule over it. But then at a certain point, I told myself, let my calendar is there to defend me. So it is defending, and it's making sure I have the time. And so I've been so much more productive. I can still schedule meetings. And so, for example, if I say like something like business development, I want to do it twice a week for an hour. Let's say maybe it proposed a time on Tuesday, but then my calendar filled up. It'll go, oh, okay, let me find another day on Thursday, until it can't find another day to work. So it'll shift from day to day if I have something where I need to do it twice a week. Now, am I necessarily doing the thing I said I'm going to do? No, but I am not in a meeting. So
That's what I'm saying.
I,
But I actually like follow the
yeah.
thing that I said I wanted to do though.
Sometimes I do, or sometimes it'll say like project work, and I'm like, okay, what projects? Sometimes that's just me like checking in on my team. So it's a reminder of like, are we good? Oh, we're good. Then I have an hour to do something else, right?
Mhm.
But I just found that I love it because it, like I said, it defends my calendar. And so they do have a free version. The free version lets you do, I think, 3 habits. It also has this feature which has also, because I used to be really bad at scheduling back to back meetings.
Yeah.
Um, but they have something called decompression. So it puts in, so outside of the habits, if a meeting is scheduled, whether someone schedules it with me or I schedule, if it's either a meeting schedule, it'll put in 15 minutes right after for decompression. So it also prevents me from having back to back. And so it's nice because also I found that I'm most productive in assigning tasks when it's fresh on my mind.
Yeah.
So because I'm forced to like stop for 15 minutes, I can like make sure the notes are up to date, assign, delegate, which is
Mhm.
another thing I learned that I heard you say.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. So the free version lets you do 3 habits, the decompression, and then connect to one calendar. The paid versions, which again I sent my link for, you can do more because when I started, before they scaled down to this is what's offered in free, because I feel like I don't know if you noticed, every tool
Yep.
within the past 2 years, I remember like Hootsuite and other things where it's like, here's a free thing that you can use. Then they started limiting
It
what
feels
you
free.
could
It
use
feels
for
like
free.
free-ish. Free-ish.
Yeah, yeah, but I can say reclaim, like, the free version is still helpful. However, there was a time when I probably, and if my, business grows and other things happen, I could see paying for it, because there was a time where I was managing multiple calendars. So I was kind of working as like a fractional consultant on different projects where I had a calendar through their company. And so when I was doing that and using Reclaim before they reduced it, I had 3 different calendars coming in: my personal, my business, their business. And so it was also protecting my time on their company calendar of when I was available. So they couldn't see what I was doing. They would just see busy. And so I didn't have to go into their
Yeah.
calendar to keep up with it, which I love. So yeah, the paid version has more habits, more calendars you can add, and then also you can collaborate with team members. So if you have a team and you want to get everybody kind of involved of like what's the optimal time for the team, it has that feature.
All right. So we'll be downloading that later.
I talk about it in it always comes up, whether I'm talking about time manager or not. If I'm in any kind of entrepreneur conversation, I'm like, please, this has changed my life in the last year.
Mhm. So do you color code your calendar?
Yep.
All right.
Uh, so like when we were talking about the program facilitation, right? So I have people that have scheduled meetings with me. I have them automatically show up in like a dark green because I think my colors might be blue. So that way I can visually just see, oh, that's for this program versus my company
Yeah.
meetings. Or this is a networking conversation, things like that. Absolutely. Just visually
Yes.
is helpful to
For
see.
me, that definitely helps. I'm getting better at also maybe not the decompression time, which I definitely need to factor in, but
Mm,
taking action, you know, when the meeting happens, along
mm.
with being very intentional, like with my transcription. Thank you, AI. Now it's really good at kind of narrowing down what was like the key things from the conversation. And so I'm making more use of those tools to save me the time to not have to go back and actually rewatch a meeting or reread an entire transcript when I only needed 3 points out of it. So for me, those things have helped with productivity and just time management quite a bit because when I first started with business, what I call the traditional time management things like the Pomodoro technique, time
Mhm.
blocking, or co-working, none of those worked for me. It didn't work for my attention span. It almost stressed me out more. And I'm not saying they don't work. They just didn't work for me. Like I know people that
Mhm.
are religious time blockers, and I'm like, you must just live by yourself. You must.
My brain is so
Yeah.
ADHD. And this is bad, I'll have different tabs. Now I do, with Chrome, I block my I don't know if you use that feature to group your
Yep.
tabs. So I will have my admin, like, things, I'll have a client's work, so that helps me focus a little bit more. Yeah, I've tried the let me set a 20-minute here. The only time I set timers is I know that sometimes I get too hyper focused. It's great for business and attention to detail, but I also sometimes get too hyper
Yeah.
focused where I'm trying to solve a problem that I don't need to try to solve right now. So when I feel myself, because now I'm starting to learn what my bad habits are or what are my distractions. When I feel myself spinning out, like I can tell, like I'm getting too, I will write down what it is that I'm trying to solve that I don't need to solve right
Yeah.
now. And then I might actually set a timer for 5 minutes. I'm like, you're allowed to spin out for 5 minutes. Just to allow myself to like get it out my system.
Yeah. I like I said, the time blocking didn't go well, and I tried co-working.
Mm,
Um, and I think I misunderstood the concept the first few times. And so I was like, when I did the first few, and it was like, all right, we're gonna be on mute for 20 minutes with our cameras off and do our work. And I was like, I thought we were gonna leave our cameras on and just talk while we worked, and like almost like a water cooler type of situation. So clearly I don't understand the co part, because if I'm just sitting here with Zoom on and my camera off and a timer on, like I could have done that without you guys. And it's weird to now just, because then what would happen is if I actually focused, then they'd pop in and it's like, all right, so, you guys want to talk about it? I'm like, well, I was in the middle of something. So for me,
mhm,
again, I just don't think my brain worked for those methods. So I've had to really figure out like what works for me. Um, I've also gotten really good at truly estimating what should take a certain amount of time. So when it comes to
mm,
like meetings, for example, where I think I used to default to every meeting being in certain meetings being an hour. And then I found that time after time, we only really needed like 35 minutes, or I would have meetings that were set to be 15 minutes. Cause when you first start, it's the 15-minute discovery call. And then 35 minutes of conversation later, I'm like, well, now I've like talked into my next meeting or my whole day is packed. And so learning one, how to make those meetings as efficient as possible, but also knowing where my personality or quirks could potentially be derailed. And I've, over these last few years, I've gotten really, really good at knowing how much time realistically I need to go through each
mm,
phase of different types of meetings. So my fit calls, it's 20 minutes, because the
mhm.
whole point is just to see if I like them. And if
Yeah,
they like
same.
me. We don't need 20, 30, 40 minutes to decide that. I'm going to know enough next
Yeah,
step in 20 minutes.
I started off with 30 and then found 20 to be that sweet spot because I found with 30, I was giving away too much for
Yes.
free. I was pretty much consulting at that point.
Yep. Yeah. And then, or, we've talked, or I was completely sidetracked. And now we're talking about dogs and squirrels and drinks and food. And we've gone so far off. And surprise, surprise, they didn't become clients. Like we might have become friends, but nobody bought anything. And so, 20 minutes is enough to keep me focused on the goal,
Mhm,
set the expectation of how we could work together, explain the steps and all of that, and kind of feel out personality. The same way that the audit, I used to, some of the, like my 90-minute audit at one point was like 2.5 hours. And so it was like, well, now I'm giving away like half the day. And again, even though it's to audit things, I was now in this space of now I'm just giving away free stuff. And I don't
mhm.
mind giving a free snippets so that you understand that you can trust that I know systems or tech
Right.
or automation. I want to give you enough that you're like, A, I learned a couple of quick things, but B, I clearly can trust that, she and her company know what they're talking about. So it's a balance. But I
Mhm.
was almost doing the work. Like because
Yep.
I was like, well, this is
Oh, I'm
fun.
I'm reworking one of my services because I realized that somehow I always left with homework because my mouth, again, I do too much. So sometimes my mouth is speaking before my brain is like, shut up. Like, what are you saying? I'll be like, oh, I'll go research this for you, because in my brain, I'm like, it'll take me 2 seconds. I no longer have those 2 seconds as a business owner. So I'm reworking one of my consultations because I realized that I always had homework,
Mhm.
and then people were following up with me because you said you're going to send this, and I'm like, well, I did say I'm going to send that, when really it's supposed to be we talk about things together and I'm coaching you how to do something, and then if you need me to do it, then you can hire us to
Yeah.
implement it on your behalf. So I'm in that cusp of, like, I learned the hard way that I literally, this last week said, need to rethink this, because why do I always have homework? Why do I have a list of
Yeah.
things after this hour that I said I was going to do? And no one asked me. I volunteered.
But that's how I've found that that is one of the quickest ways to derail any potential or possible time management that we would have, is like we're constantly adding more that no one asked for,
Hmm.
just because. And I'm not even saying that there's no value in adding more than what somebody expected, but we have to like
Hmm.
find that balance of adding more to where we don't completely give away all of our time. Not just for the financial aspect of it, but literally, as we've said a few times, there's only so much time in the day.
Hmm.
And if someone has come, and I'm just going to use it because I'm looking at my screen. If somebody comes and they ask a question about HoneyBook, and then I happen to notice they use ClickUp, and now I'm in a ClickUp, just complete, TED talk about ClickUp, when
Yep.
you for HoneyBook. And it doesn't mean that what I just told you isn't beneficial, but A, it's not what you're paying for, and B, it wasn't the focus. And
Yep.
there could be plenty of times that we actually schedule focus time to talk about that thing. But I've had to get really like reining myself in again, um,
Hmm.
of being super intentional about how much time I give pretty much every aspect of life. The only
Hmm.
area where no, I don't put like a limit on it is family. Um, but even then, there's some boundaries of, yes, we can talk, but this is what my day looks like. You know,
Mm.
if you absolutely need me, then I'll cancel and move things around. But I want to make sure that we're all clear that this is like a must have conversation right this second, versus I just called to say I love you. You know, it's on
Hmm.
here. So, but even family having to manage their expectation of my time
Hmm.
has been something that I've had to like really learn. Or it's not that I never knew it, but it's different. Like when you go to work and you go to a job, you're,
When you physically go to a 9 to 5, and then you're going to become an entrepreneur, like, you have to manage expectations. And I was in another group with all female entrepreneurs.
I knew
Someone
somebody
saying
said
the
it.
song in the chat.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you.
um,
Uh,
but we were talking about how, so a lot of moms transition to owning their own business at home, and it doesn't mean that I'm just available
yes.
anytime. Like, I'm still working. I'm not leaving the house. So managing expectations of me having my own business doesn't mean I have so much more free time, because I'm not physically going to a location from 9
Yeah, one of my favorites is, well, since you're home,
to 5.
what? What do you mean since I'm home? I'm at work. Just like you
Right.
are. So nothing's changed. I'm still at work. But yeah, that's
Right.
another time management derailer, is just loved ones and their perception of easier access to you.
Hmm.
I mean, and in theory, it is easier access,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's one
It's
of those,
easier.
that boundary has to be set, with them as well. Um, Especially if they've never worked remotely or worked from home, to where they're just it's not clicking.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing that I have, it's always a juggling act of time, again, because it's limited, but building in time for just nothing. You know,
Yeah, I'm working on that one. I've found recently that I'll have an accidental time, like maybe a meeting gets scheduled and my brain wants to go fill that time. Our meeting gets canceled, and my brain automatically is like, well, what's next on my to-do list? But like I remember even last week, like a meeting got canceled, and I was like, what if I just sat here for because it wasn't like a 2 hour meeting. It was like I just got 30 minutes back in my day, and I still had other meetings later. But I
Yeah.
was like, what if I just actually took my lunch, sat at the table, and ate, and texted a friend to say, how are you doing?
Oh
What
no,
if
no,
I just
we're different there. You cancel a meeting on me, I I am not looking to fill it with some other work. Now I might fill it with something around the house, like,
mm-hmm.
well, I needed to put a little laundry in anyway, so it works
Mm.
out.
But
Or
that's
just
also
turn the TV
that's
on.
still yeah. Because
Well, it's
I'll
still
do housework too. Like I'll start cleaning or something, but I also find like I'm trying to calm down my nervous system. Like that's something I'm working on. I'm generally amped up. My brain doesn't stop moving. I mean, my brain doesn't stop working, and I'm constantly running around.
yeah.
So I found because I will go do the dishes, do the laundry, and I found that I need to stop. Like sometimes I actually need to stop.
Yeah, my so my husband, he doesn't say anything now because it's been for years, but he'll when I first like I think probably towards the end of year one, that's when homeschool started because like COVID and everything. But he'd come in the house and he's like, it's quiet in here, and I was like, okay, and he's like, I mean, how long have you been sitting in silence? I don't know, and he was like, there's no television on or anything. I was like, well, who's watching it? I'm working, she's working.
Yeah.
Who's the TV on for? And I think it's because in the beginning I did have the TV on, but I also wasn't that busy. So at least it's not like money making busy. I was doing busy work, but I could surf Facebook and be in Facebook groups and watch television. But as
Right.
business grew and I started to actually be in meetings and things, it would be like I might turn the TV on. The second I hit pause or mute, I've now forgotten that the TV was ever on. And then now I've gone about my day. But now I've tried to, even though TV is not the most important thing, even if it's like once a week, actually turn the TV on, turn my chair, look at the screen,
Yeah, same.
like chill. I sit in. It's so funny. This chair comes with massage. It has a little reclining seat. I can't tell you. I think I've reclined 3 times. I've had this chair for like 8 months now, and I might have massaged twice. You know, and so
So
I'm
you're
trying.
like, let me turn on this feature.
Yeah, like let me like use the thing that I paid for. The dupe for the X chair. I was like, let me actually like use the features of it and see if it helps with some relaxation. But I have a treadmill in my office. I have all the things that I need to work, be efficient, stay in shape, relax, and yeah. So the tools are there. Now
Hmm.
it's a matter of not carving out time because that sounds like I'm begging for time, but making
Yeah.
intentionally to like take advantage of those things. And Haley, you are correct. It is hard for us to just sit. I think it's what makes many of us amazing business owners, but it also is a
Hmm.
thing that makes us like exhausted, stressed out wives, mothers, friends, and everything else. And so
Hmm.
it's a constant balance or juggling act of those things. Um, but I'm absolutely going to download that Reclaim app. I think the other thing that's funny, I used to have it and I'm considering bringing it back, and that is Superhuman for
Hmm.
email because
Oh.
it's email and calendar, if I remember correctly. And it's been over a year, so I would like to think they've come up with some new great things. But
Hmm.
it was a really quick way of managing multiple calendars. And so you figure I have to think about it, 2.5 business email accounts.
Hmm.
I have 2 swim team accounts. I have a personal account, and then I have an account for the program facilitator role. Last week, when they were like, "Yeah, we're going to send you your company email," I thought I was going to pass out on the Zoom because it was just like, I don't have the capacity to look at one more email account. And so, Superhuman is a way to blend it all,
Hmm.
but you can kind of sort it as you need to. So you can look at it all collectively, or you can,
That already sounds terrible.
or
Like,
you can, but even toggling through one or the other, you can also
okay,
like quickly tag it to where it's like, these are the emails that no matter what, put it in front of my
I need
face
to see.
first.
Okay.
Versus these emails can automatically go in a folder and sit and die forever. So you can like
Yeah.
teach it to figure out what's important and what's not. But
Hmm.
I know that yeah, I used it, like when I used it, I had a couple of email accounts for clients when I was doing some more one to, like when I was working more by myself. But then when the team grew and we didn't do as many administrative support things, I didn't need it, so I got rid of it. But now that I'm like 6 7 email accounts deep, I was like, all right, so I think Superhuman is going to be coming back into the fold, because that is becoming a time issue for me. Is like,
Mm.
I don't want every single one of these accounts sitting on my desktop.
Yeah.
I also don't want them all sitting on my phone to where I'm like constantly toggling back and forth, because email, as I'm not a fan of responding, I'll respond for business purposes, but email is like the bane of my existence after a while. And so that is a large suck of time, and it's not as realistic. Some people are really good about only checking emails like first thing in the morning or in the evening. I am not that person. Um, but there are certain emails that I'm going to pay more attention to. Like, for example, if I see the Honeybook icon pop up on my email, I'm probably going to read it because there might be money attached to that,
Mm.
or a potential
Listen, I love the little sound app.
ching
The
sound
little
when money
ching.
comes. But so there's certain things that I absolutely could train Superhuman to pay more attention to and to
Mhm.
put in front of me. But for me, that is going to be probably my next favorite tool aside from Reclaim. Haley, are you gonna use Superhuman also? Is that the Me Too, or Me Too because you got too much email and you can't stand it? um, but yeah, I think that there's certain things that as business grows that naturally become more time consuming.
Mhm.
And so what worked last year is not necessarily going to be the tool that works this year.
Mhm.
A, because business has grown, the team is different. She put all of the above. But then also, I'm different. You know, to your point of like being aware, like self-aware of like your body and your body's reaction to things, um,
Mhm.
hormonally, because
Mhm.
mama's getting older. But then also, since COVID and my memory being the comical thing that it is, where I used to be able to take in all this information and just retain it. And now it's like, if I pour this bottle, I'm only keeping like this much, you know? So, you know, so sometimes that was becoming a time management issue because I was spending so much time trying to remember, what did we talk about in this meeting? What did we cover? Was I supposed to do something? You know, so finding some tools that help with that aspect of it as well, so that I'm not losing time because I've lost information,
Mhm.
you know, especially as it relates to clients, because I've told all of my clients, again, setting that expectation, you are very important to me, but my memory is trash. I will forget very important things a lot. And so having the tools that are in place to help manage my humanity also have been like really important. So,
Mhm.
um, for the sake of your time and not taking up too much of it, I guess to kind of recap, so setting boundaries,
Mhm.
self-awareness,
Mhm.
living and dying by your calendar and blocking things out and being aware of what appointments need what amount of time.
Mhm.
I'm going to put the link to the Reclaim app in the comments so that we all can jump on this, because I think that's going to be super amazing to have something where it helps us not be our own worst enemy. Now, I'm going to set
Mhm.
it up and then I will do my best to follow it. And then Superhuman for those of us that have like way too many emails and calendars. Anything else?
No, and I'd love to hear about your experience after you do Superhuman because I will be next on board. I will say a tool to our disposal, you kind of touched on it, but delegating. Um, so even in my own experience, we have infinite time, but also thinking that our time has a dollar value attached to it. So I was, as an example, tax time and all of this, I'm in my QuickBooks like struggling with the way PayPal is coming in, and I can't reconcile it. And I mean, struggling for like hours, like weekly. And so one thing I'm realizing is my time working on something that isn't as intuitive to me could be better spent paying someone that can do this in an hour, right? For a fraction of what it costs me in time. And
Yeah.
once you actually put a dollar value on, if you think about it, as I lost this much money because if my time is worth whatever my hour consultation rate is versus just paying someone. And so
Yes. You need to go and talk to
I
Haley.
yeah, yeah. Well, I found someone, but I'll come talk to you as well. I did the power of SEO. I Googled my exact thing that I was troubled. It was like PayPal and QuickBooks reconciliation, and found someone that had wrote an article on it and reached out to her, and she fixed it in a day where I had been spending hours. So I think it's important to emphasize what you talked about. Delegation has been a game changer for me, particularly as you're growing your business, knowing what's going to take someone else less time, and understanding the value of that. So you get more time to focus on what you're more productive in.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the only reason that I'm comfortable taking on these additional projects. And because I delegate social media, I delegate pretty much anything financial. Thank you, Haley. She is my new fractional CFO. And I
Oh,
just told
wow.
her to tell me how much money I'm allowed to spend, and just that's it. But I delegate any type of design work, not because I can't design, but it's going to take me longer because I'm going to overthink it. So, I'm more than happy to delegate that. And then, as much as I love playing with automation tools, I still play with them every so often, but I have to like pause first to say, do I really have time for this?
Mm-hmm.
And, because even though I enjoy it and it's fun to me, sadly, sometimes it just makes sense to have somebody else on the team take it and pay them for it so that I can actually be front facing for someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the thing that delegation has allowed me to have these types of lives, whereas in the past I wouldn't have made or had the time to do so. But being able to have this conversation freely without having to wonder, oh, am I supposed to be doing something else? Or am I supposed to be answering something else or working on something else? How we manage our time and control it and really take ownership of it, I think is the thing that'll make or break that, whatever that next scalable level in business is. Now I'm going to figure out what life is going to be, because that's a whole nother monster for me, but
Well, yeah, that's a story for another day.
Well, I hope that this was helpful, not just from the ideas or tools or things that we talked about, but just the relative relating to somebody else who's like, oh, so it's not just my life that is a circus and crazy. But understanding it can be a circus and a crazy thing that you still have a little bit of some reins on. So I appreciate your time. No pun intended. But I don't know, that sounded funny in my head. But anyway, I appreciate you taking the time to talk about a topic, to hop on with me. Always enjoy talking to you anyway. And it's just kind of cool to be able to share this conversation with, other people out there. And so, Julia, if you have anything, whether it's something that you're promoting or sharing, make sure that we put it in the comments so that people can get to it. As always, I'm always like pushing these audits, because I think every business owner needs to remember to get their systems looked at and audited regularly, because things change. And so I'll make sure that I put the link to that in the comments as well. Otherwise, you can catch these replays on various social channels and on YouTube. And I appreciate you. Now, next week, I don't have any guests next week. So taking a week off and hopping on some podcasts as a guest. But then we are back in action the second week of March with some other amazing guests. And that's all I got. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for having me. This conversation was very natural and great. We can always relate to what we're doing and not doing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I will talk to everyone in a week and a half. Yeah. But of course, we love your comments. If you have any questions, if you catch us on the replay, let us know, and we will talk to you guys soon.